Good evening, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy. Thank you for joining us for this Service Academy information session. I'd like to start by thanking the representatives from the U.S. Naval Academy, the U.S. Military Academy, the U.S. Air Force Academy, and from the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy for taking time out of their busy schedules to join us tonight. It's not an accident that the U.S. has the finest military forces in the world. This distinction is earned through investment in our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen. For many of our officers, this investment begins at our elite military academies, where superb academics, training, and leadership development are the building blocks of instruction. I have the privilege of serving on West Point's Board of Visitors. Along with the other members, I'm charged with providing independent advice and recommendations to the President of the United States on morale and discipline, the curriculum, instruction, physical equipment, fiscal affairs, academic methods, and any other matters relating to the Academy that the Board decides to consider. And it's been an honor to learn so much about this storied institution in this role and to do my part to make sure that West Point develops cadets into leaders of character. In addition to thanking our Service Academy representatives, I would also like to thank all the parents and students watching for joining us tonight. For the high school juniors and seniors on this webinar, I hope this session is of assistance to you as you work on finalizing your applications. For the freshmen and sophomores, I hope this session provides you with the information and inspiration you need as you consider serving in our military. If you have any questions you would like to ask during the event, you can submit them using the Q&A function on Zoom, or if you're watching on Facebook Live, you can enter them in the comment section below. Before we get started, I'd like to say a few words about why military service is critical to the fabric of our nation. There's no group that has earned our country's support more than our nation's service members and veterans. They've sacrificed on our behalf, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. Military service is also personal for me. When I was a baby, my family and I fled Vietnam by boat in the dead of night. But our boat ran out of fuel in the middle of the South China Sea, and we sent out an emergency call while drifting dangerously in open waters. Thanks to grace or good fortune, a U.S. Navy ship patrolling in the area received our distress signal and located our boat. The sailors on board, all of them trained for combat, showed compassion for desperate strangers. And they gave us food, fuel, and water that we needed to safely reach a Malaysian refugee camp. And from there, we would make the passage to the United States and eventually become proud American citizens. And now, decades later, I am in front of you as the first Vietnamese American woman elected to Congress. And as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives and the House Armed Services Committee, I have the distinct honor of nominating promising young men and women from Florida's 7th District for selection to our nation's service academies. The United States has 5 service academies that rank among the finest institutions of higher learning in the world. I'm glad that highly motivated, well-rounded, successful students like you are considering the unique opportunity to build a foundation for exciting, challenging, and rewarding career as a military officer in the service of our nation. There are already several students from Central Florida excelling at each of the academies, and I'm pleased to do my part to ensure that our community continues to provide some of the next generation's outstanding military leaders. As a former national security specialist at the Department of Defense, I had the privilege of working side by side with many distinguished graduates from the academies. It was one of the greatest honors and challenges of my life to work with these brave men and women who have dedicated their lives to defending the Constitution and serving this country. As you discuss this exciting opportunity with Academy representatives tonight, I ask that you all bear in mind the gravity of what you're considering undertaking. Serving in our nation's armed forces, especially as an officer, is not only an incredible honor, but a serious commitment. With that, I would like to thank you all for joining us. As a reminder, if you would like to ask a question during tonight's event, you can use the Q&A function on Zoom or put your question in the comment section on Facebook. We are going to try to answer as many questions as possible, but if we don't get to your question, you can contact Kyle Thorpe, the Service Academy Coordinator in my office, for help at 888-205-5421. That's 888-205-5421. Or visit murphy.house.gov/service academies. With that, Kyle, over to you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. My name is Kyle Thorpe, and I am the Congresswoman's Service Academy Coordinator. In just a moment, you will hear from representatives of the U.S. Air Force Academy, the U.S. Naval Academy, the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, and the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. Following their presentations, you will have the opportunity to ask them questions. I will also be available to answer your questions regarding the nomination process with our office. Please use the raise hand feature should you wish to ask your question live, or the Q&A function to have your question read aloud. If you're watching live on Facebook, you can submit your questions in the comment section below this video. To start us off, I would like to introduce Lieutenant Julia Rochester from the U.S. Air Force Academy. Julia?
Awesome. Hopefully my screen is sharing for everybody today. I'd just like to welcome you all, and I have a quick 30-second video to kind of liven the spirits about what the Air Force Academy is all about.
There's nothing average about the Air Force Academy or those who come here.
It takes more than smarts and good grades.
It takes grit.
It's for the I never quit students, the relentless, persevering, most likely to keep trying until I reach my best students.
Because we will go on to lead others, push boundaries, save lives, and represent American ideals.
If you've got what it takes, prove it.
So as was mentioned before, I am a representative for the United States Air Force Academy. Throughout the different presentations, you guys are going to hear a lot of similarities about the different campuses. At the end of the day, we're just thankful that you guys are willing to choose to serve with fellow brothers in arms in service. What I'm here to offer you guys is a little bit more about particularly the Air Force Academy to make that decision a little bit easier for you guys, as well as what does the application process look like if you are looking more towards a junior or a senior in high school. So to start out with, we have kind of the three aspects of a cadet's life at the Air Force Academy. And as you see on the screen, that's also a picture of our beautiful campus. So a lot of cadets, you're going to focus on your athletics, your academics, and military. And our mission overall is to train officers of character for not only the United States Air Force, but the United States newly minted Space Force as well. So that academic pillar, just like all the other military institutions, we are a college. So everybody walks away from the Air Force Academy with a bachelor's in science. Now that we walk away with a bachelor's in science, and we do have a strong emphasis on STEM-oriented majors, that's not to say that we don't have majors ranging in all of these different kind of genres of study. So at the Academy, you have a certain amount of core classes that you have to take in all of these different genres of classes, from physics to history to philosophy, but that's all in your favor. At the Academy, you don't have to declare a major until the end of your sophomore year. So you kind of have that time to test out the waters of different things. I'd like to point out one of our newest majors added, which is data science. A lot of the times you're going to see that the Air Force Academy strives to match what is up and coming in the world, and data science is a new major that's broadening. And so we were able to include that now on our list. And as well, if you look under social sciences, a newly minted minor that we have at the Air Force Academy is space warfighting. For those of you who are interested in learning more about Space Force and space warfighting. These majors and minors can go into contributing to what career opportunities you might actually have in the operational Air Force. I have a friend who was a philosophy major and became a pilot. I have friends who are engineers, and all of these different kind of jobs that you can think of we have in the Air Force. I personally am going to be a Space Force intelligence officer. So if there's anybody who wants to talk a little bit more about the Space Force and that career path as well, I'd be more than happy to have that conversation with you. Like I said, the Academy is not just a pipeline for Air Force occupations, it is also a pipeline for those individuals who would like to potentially join the United States Space Force. As well, I mentioned athletics is also an important pillar at the United States Air Force Academy, similar to other military institutions. We are a D1 college. And so we have 10 women's D1 sport teams and 17 men's, which is one of the highest ratios of women's D1 athletics offered at a college that you're going to see across the country. We also have club sports, so they're competing kind of at the D2, D3 level. And then if that's not something that interests you, we also have squadron intramurals, where you can play sports from flag football to ultimate frisbee with other individuals attending the academy in a chiller environment. We have amazing physical education classes that range from boxing and combatives to rock wall climbing or volleyball. And so athletics is also going to be a pillar while you are at the academy. We have a fitness assessment that occurs each semester, and that is inclusive of pull-ups, sit-ups, push-ups, a long jump, a 600-meter run, and then we also have a aerobic test that's a 1.5 mile run. As you guys are going through the application process, you'll probably notice that you have to do a fitness assessment, and this continues on while you are attending the Air Force Academy. So I mentioned that we have sport clubs teams, but as well, we have other clubs that you would see normally at other colleges and other institutions, from the more creative, like in the stairwell, which you guys might have seen on America's Got Talent a couple years back, to combat shooting. Another highlight at the academy is our aviation programs and our STEM-oriented programs. So we have an airfield on campus that does programs like our soaring program, where you get to fly a plane essentially without an engine. We have power flight, we have our skydiving team, and as well, we have FalconSat, where we literally have live assets up in space currently that cadets help put together and send up. We have a drone program where you can learn how to fly and manage those. As well, we have a hacking and programming club where you can learn a little bit more about cyber warfare. Now, this all culminates also into our training to become officers of character in the military. So similar to other institutions, you are going to have your training, like your traditional land navigation, rucking, as well as marching. We all march to lunch every day. But at the Air Force Academy, you're also going to see some really awesome things like what we call Pet the Jet. So we'll have like live air power kind of land on the terrazzo, and you get to walk up and talk to the pilots, or they might do demos for you to watch before going to lunch. And we bring in a lot of speakers who are entrepreneurs, professional athletes, military leaders, world changers, to come and talk to us about how to develop as better leaders. The United States Air Force Academy is located out in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I personally am originally from the East Coast. I was from Virginia Beach, and I also lived in Florida for a time. So this was a little bit of a shock going up in altitude, but Colorado is absolutely breathtaking. The images that you see here are representing Garden of the Gods, which Colorado Springs is 15 minutes away from base. Denver and downtown Denver is about an hour away. If you're outdoorsies, we have things like skiing, hiking, camping. And for those who are into entertainment, we also have the Red Rocks Amphitheater, where you'll see performers from the Jonas Brothers to AJR come in, and you're able to take in the sites and kind of get to do all of these different activities while you attend the academy. That's not limited to just the Colorado Springs area. At the academy, you'll also see opportunities to travel overseas. I was a Japanese minor and was able to go study the language for a month and live with a host family. You can travel for summer research, whether you're working with Chick-fil-A or Google. You also can do foreign exchange programs or service academy exchange programs. And so a lot of those kind of opportunities that you think you might miss out on are actually available at the academy. So how to get started. This website is going to be very, very useful no matter what grade in high school you are in. theacademymissions.com can show you how to get to the pre-candidate questionnaire, walk you through the steps of your application. For those who are juniors, who are going to be rising seniors, come the end of the school year, summer seminar applications are going to start coming out in January, as well as future Falcon programs for you guys to kind of get to see our campus and understand a little bit what's that life like as an Air Force cadet. For those who are already applying to the academy, these are kind of the biggest check marks that we look for in that application process. You're going to see academically competitive, physically qualified, medically qualified, character and leadership, and as today we've talked about, the nominations. So to go a little bit more in depth in each of these categories, physically competitive, like we said before, you're going to have to take a candidate fitness assessment. And in there, you're going to see your basketball throw, your pull-ups, your flexed arm hang, your push-ups, your sit-ups, your shuttle run, and your 1 mile run. That's for us to figure out coordination and athletic ability. As well, you're going to have to do kind of like a glorified physical with DOBMERB is what we call it, and that's just to make sure you're fit to fight for the military, since we are a military institution. Academically competitive, these are the GPAs, SAT, and ACT scores that we're seeing most individuals who are coming into the academy. I stress that these are averages, and we also understand that every school is different, whether or not you guys have weighted or unweighted or whatnot. So we highly encourage that you're taking your SAT and your ACT seriously and doing it as many times as you can to get that best score. We as an academy super score. So if you take it a couple times, send us all of your testing so that we're able to give you the best score that you can get out of that to make you a little bit more academically competitive. My biggest foot stomp is looking at that demonstrates character and leadership. From the different extracurriculars to the sports teams that you join to the community service that you provide, we want to hear about it so we can understand what kind of leader you are and what you would bring to the campus if you were to come out to the Air Force Academy. So from things like the National Honor Society to doing Civil Air Patrol to being part of JROTC, we want to hear that and kind of get to know you a little bit more on your application. So don't be shy when you're including those things, and really take advantage of those clubs and opportunities if you are just starting out in high school or not quite yet a senior. And as we talked about here already with the nomination process, this is going to be similar for everybody. We highly recommend you look at those nominations, you look at the deadline, and you make sure you're applying for nominations in every single venue that you can. When you start the application process for the Air Force Academy, you're going to get what we call an instruction for candidates, and it's going to go step by step to help you through it. But if you do have any questions about the application process or need assistance, here's my contact information. Please reach out. I'm your admission advisor for the Central and Southern Florida area. And I'd be more than happy to answer those questions and help you kind of through that process. But if you guys have any questions tonight that I can answer, please do put them in the Q&A in the chat, and I'll try to get back to you guys.
Thank you, Lieutenant Rochester. Next, I would like to introduce Major Patrick Henson, representing West Point.
Hey, Kyle, can you let me know if you see my slides?
I do not see your slides.
Ooh, give me a minute. All right. Let me know if you do now. You got him? Okay, Mike says you got him. All right, awesome. So I am now Lieutenant Colonel Pat Henson, and I am your local admissions rep for the United States Military Academy at West Point. I am here in Orlando, and I work closely with Kyle and Stephanie Murphy's office and represent the admissions department from West Point here locally. And for those of you that I haven't had, and Kyle, looks like maybe you lost my slides, so let me share these again. So I think we got them up now. For those of you that are applying to West Point, I'm looking forward to meeting you over the next month or two as we get deeper into the application process. And for those of you that I haven't worked with yet, maybe the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, I'm looking forward to working with you over the next couple of years. If there's any questions that I don't cover here on the few slides I'm going to show, feel free to put them in the question and answer, or send me an email after the event tonight, and I'd be happy to get back to you. There are some things that are going to be common, especially between the Naval Academy, West Point, and the Air Force Academy, that I'm going to not go into depth about because you're going to hear about it from all of us. The Division I athletics, the club sports, the candidate fitness assessment, or CFA, and the nomination process is going to be almost exactly the same for all of us. So if you have questions on that, any of the three of us would be able to answer. And the only things that would be different for Coast Guard and the Merchant Marine Academy might be some of the Division I athletics, because they might play in different levels in terms of NCAA athletics. So getting into the United States Military Academy, one of the things that makes us unique, especially in comparison to some of the other service academies, is at its core, West Point exists to create leaders both in society and for the U.S. Army. All of the graduates move into the United States Army as commissioned officers for at least 5 years, and then an additional 3 in the reserves or the inactive reserves. And you can see on the screen that many of our graduates have gone on, not just for leadership positions in the military, but kind of across a very, very wide range of professional careers and careers of service in different avenues other than just being in the Army. The mission is to educate, train, and inspire the Corps of Cadets so that each graduate is a commissioned leader of character. And much like the Air Force Academy representative just mentioned, we are looking for whole candidates. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in our application process here in a minute. But I often get asked how things are weighted, or maybe a student's not in JRTC, doesn't have any family representative that might be in the military, and if that's going to impact their ability to apply to West Point. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. But we, just like the Air Force Academy just presented, are looking for really total candidate scores. Not just somebody that's strong academically or athletically, but the whole candidate is taken into account when you go through the application process with West Point. Some of the recent rankings, and we like to think that we're the best service academy, but in all honesty, all of us have our strengths, and they're all going to be very heavily weighted on STEM, available professors, and some of the strongest ranked national public universities and schools. One of the things that is also unique that all of the service academies share is it's tuition free. So a lot of times that's news to some parents and students that I talk to, whether I'm at a college fair or I'm doing an interview, going into the nomination process. But all the schools that you're going to hear from tonight are fully funded 4-year bachelor's degree producing universities, and all the students at West Point leave with a Bachelor's of Science degree and an engineering concentration. The military development question comes up a lot as well. What type of training are the students exposed to, and what type of opportunities are they given while they're at school? This is a very, very quick breakdown that shows some of the summer training activities and opportunities that our students go through each summer. During the school year, it's really a lot like a lot of other institutions. There's a lot more, I think, rigor outside of the classroom. That's not, that's to be expected. But the real military training is going on primarily during the summer and winter breaks. So you can see here the summer leading into the freshman year, plebe year, is what we call cadet basic training. And that is when a lot of the tasks that would be similar to any Army basic training school, the students are put through. So marksmanship, first aid skills, physical fitness, foot marches, the general things that the Army sees that people need to know how to do to be a soldier. Students are exposed to and tested on in that first summer, beast barracks or cadet basic training. Sophomore years, when advanced field training has gone on, they're at West Point at Camp Buckner, and that's where students are exposed a little bit more to the different branches within the Army and get to operate in teams and organizations as if they were in like an actual platoon in the Army, and go through more advanced field exercises for the duration of that summer. Then going into the junior and senior summer, students are given opportunities to go back and be cadre in leadership positions for both the freshmen and sophomores, and go to military schools like Airborne School, not Ranger School, Airborne School, Air Assault School are the most common. Air Assault School is actually taught on campus at West Point. And also advanced academic, maybe internships that are tied to their major or field of study as they're preparing for a thesis or a senior project. Branches in the Army. I'm going to send these slides out to Kyle Thorpe so he can get them to anybody that's interested. But the majority of the graduates do go into what we would see as the combat arms branches. So those would be the engineering corps, the infantry, the field artillery, armor, aviation, air defense artillery. What a lot of people don't realize is some of the kind of non-traditional branches that are available to our students when they move into the officer corps upon graduation. Every year there are students that go on to the medical corps and medical service corps, military intelligence and the signal corps, and now into some specialized cyber operations types of billets. So there's really almost an endless possibility depending on what somebody wants to pursue. What's common between all of these branches is your first job in the Army as a lieutenant is going to be leading other people, right? You're not going to be necessarily in charge of a thing, or even if you're in a tank platoon or something like that, you're going to be responsible for leading and managing and training other people that fall underneath you as you're their platoon leader. These are some of the majors. This has been updated this year, and I'm waiting for the most up-to-date slide, but this is pretty representative of the academic majors. So students can pick any major, it's not limited. One thing that's not really shown here, depicted on the slides that we have to present, is every student at West Point also has to pick an engineering discipline. So even if you are a history major or political science or foreign languages, every student is going to take what amounts to having a minor in an engineering discipline, like mechanical, environmental, civil, electrical engineering. So STEM-focused field of study is a requirement, but you are able to pick whatever major is offered, and none of them have caps or are limited. It's open to anybody. And inside of each major, there are advanced individual academic opportunities, exchange programs, internships that students have as they're preparing for a senior project or kind of a culminating thesis type of body of work. A typical day that a cadet has starts early and ends late. Most of the classes are conducted in the morning and early afternoon because just as the representative from the Air Force Academy presented, every student is an athlete, whether they're playing Division I athletics, competitive club athletics, intercollegiate club athletics, or competitive intramurals within the school. Most of the afternoon period is going to be spent either conducting military ceremonial drill rehearsals or with your sports team that you're training with or competing with in the afternoons. And this is a typical day. I would say it's not completely representative. There's plenty of time for friends and fun and things outside of the class and outside of sports. But it is a long day, and I would think that that's pretty universal between all of us that are going to talk here tonight. This is what the question that I get the most is what does the admissions department look for? And this is the best way that I can break it down. And Kyle, I'll make sure that you get these slides. 60% of a total candidate score is made up of academic ability, 30% is made up of leadership potential, and 10% is a candidate fitness assessment. And in the different kind of areas and what they're made up on are shown here. So I would say that 60% that we're looking for from the Department of Admissions is we're weighting candidates on a national scale is most heavily weighted by your standardized test scores. So it takes into account your grade point average and your class rank, but it's most heavily weighted with your standardized test score. And the reason for that is that we're comparing students across the entire country. And the easiest way and most accurate way for the Department of Admissions to do that when they're comparing a student from Orlando versus a student from Dallas or New York or South Dakota is to use either the SAT or the ACT. We encourage students to take it more than once. The school does super score both the ACT and ACT, and they will only wait and use and look at either the ACT or the SAT, whichever one is more favorable for that particular student. In the Southeast, we are most familiar seeing the SAT, so that's what I can speak to when people ask what averages we're looking for or what competitive scores we're looking for. I'm happy to have that conversation if somebody has questions. But what you see on the screen is how we build what we call a total candidate score that we feel is representative of the entire picture of a student. Some of the minimum eligibility requirements: you must be a U.S. citizen, you must be between the ages of 17 and 23, you must not be married or have a direct legal obligation to supporting a child. That might change in the future for all the service academies, but right now, those are the minimum eligibility requirements. And you also have to have a nomination that I think Kyle's going to talk about, or any of us can talk about here in a little bit. The first step that I would say is go to westpoint.edu/admissions, and I have that hyperlink here on the last slide. That is the place to go to start to get all of the information that's available to students that might be interested in applying to West Point. I saw a question in the Q&A portion that was asked, when should you start? I would say if you're a junior right now, you should start next semester. Spring of junior semester, summer going into your senior year is really the prime time that the school is going to start reviewing and prioritizing certain students' applications. And you definitely want to have as much of your application done your senior year before the nominating boards meet. And for Stephanie Murphy and for the 7th District, it sounds like that is going to be in early November this year. Typically, you want to have as much done in your application for West Point, at least, by middle of October, beginning of November, so that we can go into the nomination board with as clear of a picture of each student that's going to be competitive as possible. The actual application deadline is 31 January of your senior year. I would say you do not want to wait until that late. Most of the students that are going to be admitted, a decision has already been made before Christmas, going into Christmas your senior year. So the earlier you can get done with stuff, the better is my best advice for any student. Nominations, it's going to be the same for any of the service academies. Every student should and can apply to 3 nominating sources. One is your local congressperson, which is Stephanie Murphy for everybody on this call. And the other 2 are the 2 senators in the state of Florida. For some individuals, if you're in specific JRTC units, or you have a parent that has a military career background, you might be eligible for other nomination avenues. If you're a recruited athlete or something like that, you might also be able to compete for a national nomination. But every student that's on the call tonight should know that they should and can apply for 3 nominations, 1 from each senator and 1 from Stephanie Murphy. Admission strategy is to be proactive and aggressive. The best advice that I can give somebody is to get things done as early as possible, so the admissions counselors like myself and the people at West Point can look at your file as early as we can, preferably sometime in October before the nominating boards meet. That is what you can do to be in the best standing with the school. That means that you'll want to plan and take the SAT or ACT multiple times before that date, so that we can see a representative score as part of your application once we get into that window in the fall of your senior year. And contact information, I work with Colonel Mike Ulikowski. He is the Florida area coordinator for West Point admissions representatives. I am the local representative in Florida. Mike Ulikowski also lives in Orlando. He is the primary military academy liaison for other districts. I'm the primary liaison for this district with Stephanie Murphy's office, and I work directly with Kyle. So I would be your primary point of contact. Maurice and Chris are backups for both of us. And your admissions commander that covers the entire Southeast for West Point is Major Kathleen Rogers. She is a full-time active duty officer at West Point. She is the person that I am working with at the school as I am reviewing files for the 7th District and championing them and advocating for you on your behalf. And her contact information is there on the screen. She encourages you, if you have questions, to reach out to her. Feel free to copy me on that email if you're sending her something direct, because I might be able to answer it myself here a little bit quickly or more quickly than she could. And then you see in closing, the site that you'll want to be able to go to, save, and go to either start a file, open a file, get information that's generally available regarding West Point's admission policies and timelines. It's westpoint.edu/admissions. And with that, Kyle, I think I am done, and I will hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Major Henson. I would like to remind everyone that you will have the opportunity to ask questions following these presentations. Please use the raise hand feature should you wish to ask your question live, or the Q&A function to have your question read aloud. Next, I would like to introduce Benjamin LeBrun, representing the U.S. Naval Academy. Did I get that right, Ben?
Got it correct.
Nice.
All right, Kyle, thank you so much, guys. I'm going to get my screen thrown up here. Okay, can everybody see that? I'm seeing nodding heads and raised thumbs. Okay, guys, how you doing? My name's Ben LeBrun. I'm coming to you live from Annapolis, Maryland. And without further ado, I'm going to kick this off. So we are located on the Severn River between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. Great place to be. Lovely campus. We call our campus the Yard. So you're going to hear me use that term a few times tonight. As you can see at the bottom of this picture, we're an expansive campus. We have a lot going on here. You can actually see there on the horizon Bancroft Hall, which is the largest single dormitory of any school anywhere in the world. All class years reside there. From year to year, you'll move up as you go along in your time at the Naval Academy, but there's a lot of stuff to do while you're here as well. It's something of a world unto its own, which I think is super important when we're coming into this next normal, in COVID. So this is a place where God forbid you get locked down again, you're not going to struggle for things to do. There's always something going on here. We have lots and lots of activities. We have pools, we have weight training, we have soccer, we have ice rinks, anything you could want. And then, of course, Annapolis, which is a very lovely town right off the yard. So, I mean, really, there's no lack of things for you to do when you come to the Naval Academy. We are one of the top universities in the United States. All service academies are great schools, don't get me wrong, but we're one of the #1 schools when it comes to certain metrics, specifically liberal arts as well, which is surprising because we may not have as many majors as some of the other schools, but we have a lot packed into each one of those. We have a very diverse brigade. We are representative of everyone from across the country and internationally as well. Every year we have 60 international midshipmen sent from their country to come and learn how we do things at the Naval Academy. It's a big draw. People want to come and be a part of what we do here at the Academy, regardless of where they are in the world. We have at any one time about 4,500 midshipmen. We're a little heavy right now, but as you can probably imagine, for various reasons, folks will depart. But there is at any one time about 4,500 people on this campus. So, like I was saying before, with our majors, we have 26 majors and some additional language minors. Now, we are a STEM school. Like the West Point presenter mentioned, STEM is going to be a big part of your curriculum, whether that's something you're particularly interested in or not. I wouldn't fret too much about that, though. We give you a lot of resources to help you out while you're here. But if you are interested in STEM, I can't think of a better school to go to right now. I especially recommend that you check out Hopper Hall. We have a virtual candidate visit for that. It is an awesome, awesome building. It's the hub of our cyber systems program right now. A lot of cool stuff going on in that building, so you should definitely check it out. If you go to usna.edu/admissions, you can see those candidate visits. Now, I do want to say something that some of the other presenters haven't mentioned. Yes, we're a STEM school. Yes, we have a liberal arts program. That doesn't mean you have to pick a STEM major if you want to do something specific, like be a helicopter pilot, right? We have physicists who are helicopter pilots. We have English majors who are Navy SEALs. Pick the major that is best for you, not the major that you think the Navy wants you to take, right? We encourage people to play to their strengths here. We're not trying to set you up to fail. We have a 9 out of 10 graduation rate because we want to make sure that every midshipman comes here fully equipped and does something that they are interested in doing and learning more about. So like I said, whether you want to do STEM or not, it is a part of your curriculum day one. Calculus, chemistry, physics, engineering, all of these are going to be things you have to learn about when you come to the Naval Academy, but please don't fret about that. We have something called the Center for Academic Excellence. Whether you need tutoring, mentorship, a quiet place to study, a pair of headphones and a massage chair to relax, they have everything you need there to help you succeed as a midshipman. But as you can see, this is a very packed core curriculum, so you're going to have a very good understanding of what drives a modern Navy. When you get out into the fleet, you're not going to be struggling where, somebody like me who was only enlisted in the surface Navy, I don't understand some of these concepts nearly as well as the most basic graduate from the Naval Academy. So trust me, you will understand these forward and back when you get out. That much I can promise you. Additionally, our class sizes are pretty small, and that plays to a really good strength. There's nowhere to hide in a classroom, but that's okay. You won't want to. Our professors are very nice folks. Additionally, it gives you an opportunity to talk with them, to receive, their experience and mentorship, so that if you're struggling with something, it's not like you're trying, to get their attention in a sea of 150 faces like some other four-year schools. You'll have an opportunity to speak with them one-on-one after every class. You'll have the opportunity to engage with them outside of class hours, right? They're not going to be swamped with people coming to their office every single day. You'll be able to talk with them and get the help you need, should you need that. Additionally, we have a 1-to-1 civilian to military faculty ratio, which means half of our faculty are on active duty. These are folks who can mentor you not just in a subject, but also in your military career as well. They've been to the fleet, they've been there, they've done that, they've brought it back here so they can impart that to the next brigade of midshipmen. Like the other schools, we're D1. We have a great varsity sports program. I can't brag on it enough. However, if you don't see something you like on our varsity sports, like it was mentioned previously, we do have club and intramural sports as well. New ones are coming out every single year. So if you don't see something you like, right, you understand that everybody who comes to the Naval Academy or any service academy is not only a student, but an athlete. Doesn't mean you have to pick something you hate. pick something you like. There's dozens and dozens of options to choose from. I'm certain there's something on these lists that you want. You can go to navysports.com to check out more about our athletics program. You can set up interviews with our coaches. You can talk to some of the staff that works on the teams. It's an awesome resource. I can't recommend it enough. That's navysports.com. Please check it out if you are interested in getting tickets to games, anything like that. That's the place you want to be. We also have extracurricular clubs. These go across many different subjects: cultural, religious, military profession, all kinds of different things. I won't dwell on those too long. I want to be respectful to the other presenters' time tonight, but suffice to say, there's plenty for you to be involved in while you're here. Lots of opportunities to experience new things, especially going abroad as well. We encourage people, just like the Air Force presenter, we encourage our midshipmen to go abroad, to experience other countries, immerse themselves in the language. We have partnered with various sister service academies across the world. These are just some of the ones you see on here, but every single semester, every single year, and yes, even in the midst of COVID, we are sending our midshipmen abroad to get these experiences, to show folks what we do at the Naval Academy, and so they can impart something of how they do things in their country. This can be as short as a month to a semester long. It is something that is competitive, but if you apply yourself, every year we send at least 100 or so midshipmen abroad. So it is something that if you apply yourself, you're more than likely to be able to do. Additionally, like the West Point presenter said, this is a full scholarship, right? Everything from your first day at the academy is going to be paid for, right? That includes your books, your uniforms, a laptop computer, which you will be issued, right? You're not going to have to struggle like some of your peers going to another four-year school. Oh, I have to work over the summer. Oh, I have to work my evenings to make money for books or something. That's not something you're going to worry about. You're always going to have the tools you need to succeed as a midshipman. All you have to bring is the self-discipline and the motivation to use those tools and to use these resources to be the best student and athlete you can be, right? Additionally, you're going to be paid, right? It says $11.85 a month. That can fluctuate depending on various things, but you will always have money in your pocket. You're never going to struggle. When you have liberty, you can go off the yard. You'll always have money in your pocket. That's not something you're ever going to have to worry about. Finally, we have summer training. This is, the real meat in your summer. After your vacation period, you're going to be going and developing as a leader and as a future officer in the United States military. So these are great opportunities to go out there, see what we do, right? You learn all year about all these fun things we do: propulsion systems, aviation systems, all these things. This is the opportunity to put those things to the test and actually learn about what we do. So your summers will be full. This is basically a year-round program with a few breaks in between. But I promise you those 4 years will fly by like nobody's business. But as you can see, you'll be doing a lot of cool things over your summers. And finally, everybody who graduates gets a Bachelor's of Science, yes, even a Bachelor's of Science in English. You'll always be commissioned in either the U.S. Navy or Marine Corps, and there will be a 5-year service commitment. That can fluctuate depending on additional training. A pilot or a Navy SEAL obviously needs more service commitment time to cover their training than somebody who's going immediately to fleet with no follow-on training. So speaking of fleet, cover down on some of the career fields we have: surface warfare, sub-warfare, aviation, spec war, and the Marine Corps. These comprise about 95% of all graduates from the United States Naval Academy. So for this most recent class here, class of 2021, we had 1,080 officers graduate. Of those, the majority of them went into one of those fields I just mentioned. About half the folks who graduate from the Naval Academy go into aviation in either the Navy or Marine Corps. You don't just have to go to the Air Force Academy to learn to fly. We got plenty of planes on the Navy, of that much I could promise you. But for those of you who distinguish yourself in other ways, we do have more advanced staff corps roles as well. Only about 5% of the class is getting into these, though. They're very, very, very competitive. And under those as well are the graduate programs for those who are going to go on to the University of Maryland or other schools around the country to receive graduate's degrees, master's degrees in some one or more disciplines. So that's very competitive, but I can promise you any one of these career fields is really, really cool. There's so many different things you can do in the Navy. I could talk all night about them, but if you want us to learn more about them specifically, you can go to usna.edu/admissions. It will break down what each one of those career fields has to offer you once you graduate. And finally, we do have summer programs like the other academies. The summer STEM program is focused primarily on folks who are in the 9th, 10th, or 11th grade and are not quite ready to go to their senior year yet, right? Or not ready to graduate onto their senior year. So these are a great opportunity to come to the academy, learn about our STEM programs, get to talk to some of the faculty, meet some of the midshipmen who are in these programs, get to do a lot of cool stuff. You can go to usna.edu/admissions/STEM. The program will be opening up for applications on January 4th. So please don't miss that. If you go to the web link I just mentioned, you'll be able to set a reminder for those. Now then we have the summer seminar. So these are for folks who are between their junior and senior year, right? So you're getting ready to graduate soon. You will have the opportunity to come to the Naval Academy and experience what we're doing at the Naval Academy. So this is basically, think of it as a mini plebe summer being the equivalent to basic training for midshipmen. So this is an awesome opportunity to kind of try it before you buy it. See if this is something that's for you, something you really want to do. You'll also get an opportunity as well to pass your preliminary application. So the application you make for this, whether you get in or not, carries on to the following year. So if you apply on January 4th, 2022, you'll automatically be enrolled for the class of 2027, the upcoming class. So you'll be ahead of the game for compared to anyone else who didn't apply to this program. So there's no reason not to apply. Please go to the usna.edu/admissions link, check out more about the program. You'll also have the opportunity to sign up for reminders so that if you do want to apply for this, if this is something you want to do, you'll already be there ready to go. And like I said, whether you get in or not, which, if you do get in, awesome, you'll still have a preliminary application forwarded on for the following year. And then finally, guys, that online application that I've been talking about. So it's a very involved process. I'm not going to go over every single one of these. I do want to say, though, one big part of it, something that I see every year that is really troubling, candidate fitness assessment. The Air Force presenter brought it up, and I'm really glad she did, but I just want to reiterate, please do not sleep on this. I have so many good students that I want to see come to the Naval Academy who don't prioritize the CFA, and they suffer for it. They look at basketball throw, shuttle run, 40 yards, I can run that. Guys, it's not something, even if you are a good athlete, please train for it. Go to usna.edu/CFA. It breaks down every single step of the CFA process. It is a great resource. It's something that applies to the other service academies as well, not just us. So it behooves you, please go, because that could be the difference between getting in or not. You do have to pass the CFA to get in, no matter how good a student you are. So medical qualifications, I work with medical at the Naval Academy, so I can just say this. Admissions will make the determination when we send you to medical. However, I don't want you to worry about that nearly as much as finishing your application. You can go to the admissions board without a nomination, without a medical review. However, you do need those things before you can receive a fully qualified offer. But if you complete your application, you could get a preliminary or conditional offer without having done those things yet. And a conditional offer just means once you meet those conditions, you receive a fully qualified offer of acceptance. You can get into the Naval Academy on that ticket, right? But you just have to make sure that you complete your application. That is paramount. That is the first thing you need to focus on, is completing that application. Medical can come later. Obviously, nomination deadlines are a thing, so you do want to do that in tandem, but I don't want you to worry about medical nearly as much as getting that application done. And then, speaking of which, nominations. So, as previously mentioned, there are multiple nomination sources to pull from. I do want to say, though, the vice presidential nomination is available to anyone. You can go to usna.edu, check out our nominations tab. It explains exactly how to apply, where to apply, what papers to use. It's all there in one location. If you go to that tab, it will show you exactly what you need to do. If you have any questions about it, I work in nominations and appointments at the Naval Academy, which means this is my bread and butter. It's what I do every single day of the week. If you have a question, I'll have my info in the chat after this. Reach out to me. Where my domicile is. I have a special situation. I live out of the country, or anything like that. Reach out to me. I can help you out with that. If I can't, I can point you in the direction of somebody who can. The candidate cycle is year-round. I'm not going to go over every single one of these dates. This graphic is on our admissions website, though. It kind of gives you a breakdown of what we expect for those of you who are not yet in their senior year or are just about to enter into their junior year. The admissions process is very competitive. This preliminary application is $16,000. This offer of appointment is $1,200. So if you don't get in your first time, please don't think that that's it. You'll never have a chance. Stick-to-itiveness and perseverance will carry you very far, whether you're going to the Naval Academy or any service academy, right? If you don't get in the first time, try again, right? Especially if you got your medical review. Medical reviews are good for 2 years, which means if you passed medical, there's no reason you shouldn't apply the next year if you don't get in because your medical is still good. That's one step you don't have to do. So please, continue to apply yourself even if you don't get in the first time. And then finally, for those of you who are right on the cusp of getting in, we have preparatory schools. We have the Naval Academy Preparatory School in Rhode Island, and we have the Civilian and Foundation Preparatory Programs. About 300 applicants every year get into these. There isn't a separate application for them. This is something that it is determined based on your initial application. Preparatory school is 8 months at Rhode Island. It's a little more intensive than Foundation or Civilian Prep because it is basically a sort of a small introduction to the Naval Academy. You will go up there, you will serve in uniform, you will get a sense of what the Naval Academy is before you go there, and you'll get intensive instruction in 1 or more subjects. Foundation or Civ Prep is if maybe only 1 or 2 classes are holding you back. You don't necessarily need that same intensive study in order to meet qualifications to get in. And then finally, guys, I'm just going to leave you with a few basic pieces of advice. Have a strong foundation in math and science. Like I said, even if you're going into poli-sci, English, or history, you're still going to have to do some kind of STEM. And that's not just for us, that's for any service academy. It behooves you to start doing it now. If you're not in advanced math, get in advanced math. If you're in a science of some kind, make sure it's one with a lab component. We want to make sure that you not only know the science, but you can do the science. You do not have a minimum GPA. About 3.5 is what we normally get. If it's a little bit below that, that's okay. You know, just we have a whole person concept, so it will balance out based on other criteria in your application. Finally, like the other schools, we don't have a minimum SAT. 1,100 to 1,200 is what we normally see, but you know, we super score. So if you are not satisfied with the SAT or ACT you have, go take it again. We will always take the best subject score of what you get. We do not require the essay for the SATs or ACTs, so that's fine. We just care about the math and reading scores primarily. Additionally, too, we are test flexible again this year. If you're struggling to find testing in your area, reach out to us. Reach out to your admissions counselor. Let them know about that. We can either help place you with a test, find you a test somewhere. If we can't do that, then we will find some other way to qualify you, and we won't count those lack of SATs against you for this cycle only. We also like to see any kind of additional advanced courses. We like to see folks who like to challenge themselves without somebody poking them in the back telling them to do it. And finally, be well-rounded. What does well-rounded mean? It means maybe you're not involved in 10,000 things, but you're involved in a few things and you're doing them very well. We want to reach out to your coaches. We want to reach out to your teachers. We're going to ask them, tell us about this student. Tell us about this candidate. We want them to be able to say, this is a person who comes every single day. They do their best. They push themselves to be their best. They push their teammates to be their best. This is somebody that I can easily see in a leadership role. That's what we want to hear. We don't want to hear, well, they're involved in 10,000 things. That's great, but you can't focus on 10,000 things and do each single one of them well, right? So don't focus on that so much as focusing on developing your leadership potential, being somebody who's identifiable as a leader, because when you graduate, that is absolutely what you will be. Finally, like I've been saying the entire time, usna.edu/admissions and navysports.com. These are great resources to go to. Please do not sleep on these. Go check them out. Everything I didn't cover tonight is there and more. Additionally, we have social medias. You can reach out to us and ask us questions at any one of these. We will get back to you. And then finally, guys, if you don't go to the Naval Academy, which I highly believe you should, I am biased, I do wish for you to have a moment like this. You can see the energy and happiness on everybody's face at this graduation. I wish that for you, regardless of whether you come to us or not. Going to a service academy is a life-changing experience. It is something that will influence you for the remainder of your days. It's something that anybody can say, this benefited me. This changed, how I perceive things, and this has made me a better person. I wish that for you. Anyway, guys, have a great night, and I hope you get a lot of good info.
Thank you, Ben. Our final presentation comes from Commander Mike Burdick, representing the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. Mike? Mike, you're on mute.
Okay, I think my screen is up here. So, yeah, thanks everyone for joining us today. Appreciate Congresswoman Murphy's staff here for putting this together. Really a great event here, an opportunity to talk to you. From my vantage point, I really just, we get a lot of exceptional young men and women applying to the academies every year. And really incredible to see you out there really striving to do something unique. I'm going to hit this fairly quickly because there are similarities in our academies, but I'll hit what makes us really unique. Because I think USMMA, or the Merchant Marine Academy, also known as Kings Point, is probably the least known of the academies and least understood. So we're located just outside New York City in Long Island, beautiful North Shore here. We are a waterfront campus. So as we look out over the horizon here, we see Queens. We see the Bronx, and then in the distance, we see the New York City skyline. So really great to be accessible to New York City. You jump on a train here, in about 30 minutes, you'll be right in the heart of New York City in Times Square, Penn Station. We have a small student body, so we're a small school with about 1,000 students given here at any given time. Of course, we have small class sizes, and we are unique from the DoD academies in that we fall in the Department of Transportation, so a little different there. And we're also the only academy that's privileged to carry a battle standard in memory of our 142 cadets and midshipmen that were casualties during World War II. So really a great history that the academy has, and really encourage you to take a look at our website to learn more about what we do. So the question we always get is, well, what's the Merchant Marine all about? What do we do? And in essence, think of the privately owned commercial vessels that are engaged in the transport of cargo for waterborne commerce. So that's a really important economic mission. Merchant mariners are involved in international trade from the ports to the vessels. Think container ships, think tankers, think offshore energy, anything that's involved in shipping domestically and around the world. And that's all important to the U.S. as an economic power in the world. But also the national security mission is quite important as well, particularly during military conflict. And we have to have the ability to project our U.S. power globally and to respond to any contingencies. So the Merchant Marine plays a significant role in sustaining that war effort. Now, key information of our academy, just like the other academies, you do earn a Bachelor of Science, you do earn a commission. But what makes us really unique is that you earn a Merchant Marine Officer credential or license, which allows you to work in the industry aboard any vessel anywhere in the world, which is fantastic. And also, the other thing that makes us unique is that you have options for commissioning. For example, you don't have to go on active duty. If you prefer to stake out a career in the maritime industry, you can certainly do that and be a reserve officer. Conversely, you can also go on active duty in any branch of service. So if you're unsure, or perhaps you want more than one commissioning option, you can certainly do that. If you're looking to go in the Air Force, I'd say apply to Merchant Marine Academy as well. If you're looking to go into the Navy, same. If you're looking for the Army, you can commission out of the Academy, out of the Army, to the Army out of the Academy, as well as the Coast Guard and Marine Corps and NOAA. So just some fantastic options for you available. Our programs, we have a very specialized curriculum that's centered on what your end state is going to be here, which is going to be not only a commissioned officer, but also a licensed mariner. And so those two routes are either on the deck side or on the engineering side. We are an engineering school, but we are focused onto really 5 academic majors. On one side, the transportation side, and on the other side, the engineering side. We have a Division III athletics program, with our biggest competitor being the United States Coast Guard Academy. We have club sports. We have really a robust waterfront with a ton of options for you to explore and also get competitive in. And then we run the gamut on clubs and activities as you would have in any other academic program as well. Now, really the cool thing that separates us would be our CEO program. We are in a 4-year academic program that results in a Bachelor of Science degree. But what's really neat is that one of those years you spend away from the academy, and that's broken up between your sophomore and junior year. So you come here your freshman year and you go through a classroom setting, and then during your second and junior year, 100 days initially, and then for 200 days, your second time out, you're out traveling around the world, working aboard an ocean-going vessel, anywhere from Antarctica to the Middle East to the Asia Pacific, Africa, Europe, you name it. If that vessel's going there, you're going to be on board it. So really a lot of great opportunities here. At the end of the day, you are going to graduate with an awesome degree. You're going to have just some incredible, unique experiences that combine your academics here and your actual hands-on work during your senior, working with a crew in an austere environment for an actual maritime firm or aboard a military vessel, so that when you graduate, you're not only ready for employment as a licensed mariner or as a military officer, but you've got the leadership training and you've got this incredible life experience of spending a year away. And that brings you back really a different person from the time you come here and get through indoctrination to the day you graduate. Just a tremendous growth in you. And so just a ton of options and opportunities for you to explore. And you can certainly take a look at our website and learn more about it, because it can certainly take you anywhere in the world for a variety of experiences. So how to get in, the process is really very similar to other academies. Our application opens May 1st, so you should be on top of it right now if you're a senior, or if you're looking because maybe you're a sophomore or junior, think May 1st. You do have a request a nomination. You do have to get medically qualified. The good thing is you do your DOMR physical, you do it for one academy, it's accounted for the other academies. Our processes or qualifications might be a little bit different, but it's one physical exam. You got to take the fitness assessment, and then obviously you've got to submit your online application, which is really simple. Just go to our website and you can start knocking it out now. Recommendation, talk to a field rep in your local area. If you're able to, I would say visit the academy. We are doing day visits here currently. And then if you can't, certainly schedule a virtual presentation to learn a little bit more and go over this in additional details. That's really it for me. I'm going to really pause it here because I know we want to go into Q&A. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commander Burdick. As he said, we will now move into the Q&A portion for tonight. Please use the raise hand feature should you wish to ask your question live, or the Q&A function to have your question read aloud. We do have some questions for when from when you all registered. If I could get my other, here we go. If I could get my other panelists to turn on their cameras, wonderful. The first question we have is from Jackson Toll. It's a question for the Merchant Marine Academy. He says, please give examples of how graduates serve both military and civilian obligations.
Sure, that's a great question. So as I mentioned, you can commission any branch of service, which a majority of our folks will go into the U.S. Navy Reserve as strategic SEALIFT officers. That's their military obligation. And they're serving that, excuse me, concurrently as they're working in their industry. So your obligation essentially is you work for a company that's working in commerce, and you're sailing for that company, and then you're knocking out your reserve obligation. And typically it's a 2-week obligation that you're wedded to over the course of the year. And you do that, so your requirement is to sail on your license for 5 years. Your reserve obligation is 8 years. If you decide that you want to extend beyond that, you certainly can. But that's how you do it. You've got you're a reserve officer and you're working in your career.
Beautiful. The next question we have is from Anthony Ramirez. He asks, to apply for a nomination, it asks for proof of residency. Does a Florida driver's license count as proof of residency? The short answer is yes. I asked for those 2 separate documents simply because some people don't live in the district, but their home of record due to familial military obligations is still Central Florida. So that's why we asked for both of those documents. Our next question is from John Fay. What particular extracurricular activities are recommended? I'm assuming he's meaning for the application process. What would make them look like the best applicant?
So I can hop on this, Kyle. So what we look for is any kind of extracurricular that puts you in any kind of leadership role. It doesn't mean you have to be the captain of the football team, but something where team sports always look good. Band, anything that involves volunteerism. So if you're going out and doing things, or any kind of advanced subject clubs, math clubs, debate clubs, chess clubs, that sort of thing.
Okay, our next question is from David Roman. He asks, if my son has 4 years of Air Force ROTC, does that give him preference and help him have a better chance to go to the Air Force Academy? And I think that would probably apply to any of the academies.
Absolutely. And it was kind of brought up before. It's in addition to your application that you served in ROTC, and we look at that as showing kind of taking the initiative with leadership and having an interest in military. But it's not necessarily going to mean that you get to skip a year when you get to the academies. They are full 4 years, no matter where you go. And you're still getting that bachelor's in science. It's not going to give you a preference in like jobs. So you're not going to become a senior ranking job while you're a freshman or anything of that nature, but it does add to that kind of character and leadership aspect of the application that we're looking for.
Okay, Ann Hall asks how to apply. I'm going to assume she's asking about nominations. For our office, you go to murphy.house.gov/service academies, and you fill out the use form there. Within about a day, I'll email you the full application and instructions on how to move forward with our office. But in case all of our presenters noted how to start their application with the academies. But did you guys want to give out those web addresses one more time? Sorry, Julia.
So ours is academyadmissions.com. Super simple, but you can type that in and it will get you to where you need to go.
Patrick?
Kyle, I'm typing it out, but it's westpoint.edu/admissions.
USNA.edu/admissions. Best place to go.
Same thing for Merchant Marine Academy, USNA.edu admissions.
Okay. Our next question comes from Ariana Keeling. She asks, will multiple participation in extracurricular activities from JROTC count as high school athletic extracurricular activities? So I guess she's wondering if participation in JROTC qualifies her for her athletic requirements.
So Kyle, I'm not sure I understand the question fully. So is the student maybe in JRTC but not participating in athletics? Is that,
that's what I'm taking from it, yeah.
Yeah, I would say for West Point, I don't want to speak to the others. The most competitive students are still going to have some type of competitive athletics is part of their file, because remember when I showed the slides, that has its own section as part of the total candidate score. And typically JRTC falls outside of athletics and in the extracurricular portion of the application. And you don't want to take a 0 on any of those areas. So my advice to a student that's maybe a sophomore or junior is to go out for a sports team while there's still time, and find something that they can, be a participant and contribute to. Even if it's not like a traditional Big Four type of sport. We see students every year that are on the weightlifting team or some type of martial arts or something even outside of school that's still competitive, and that gives them credit and helps them prepare their application for success.
Okay, our next question is from Lori Piper. When in their high school career do students need to start applying for each of the academies? And we actually have another kind of a follow-up on that from Daniel. He asks, I'm in senior year. Is it too late to apply for the Air Force Academy? So when should they start, and when is it really too late?
Absolutely. So kind of what's already been mentioned, we recommend starting from the get-go and building your resume. So joining clubs, joining sports, getting involved in the community, that can start right away from 9th grade. We look at the full resume that you have from the minute you step into high school. For the actual application process, that pre-candidate questionnaire, you can take it March of your junior year. And that's when that portion of the application opens up. Most individuals take it that summer before going into their senior year. And then the full application process. So we have candidate phase 1, candidate phase 2, and candidate phase 3 will start up August of your senior year. Our deadline closes at the end of December. We're seeing that being pushed back a little bit because of COVID. But our deadline is normally around December 31st.
And is that the same for most of the academies? That same time frame?
Yeah, it's generally the same for us.
Okay. Our next question comes from Alessia. She says, for the Service Academy nominations, if you're applying for multiple service academies, could you use a single nomination for multiple academies? I can see Ben answering already. Yeah, the answer is no to that one. With our office, you would, let's say you wanted a nomination to 3 different academies, you would need to sit for 3 different interviews, and each one of those boards would need to find you sufficient to receive a nomination. So you don't just get one, and it's for every academy. Our next question, when do you apply for the nominations? After preliminary application or at the same time? Anyone who deals with applications will answer the same question, I think. Get started early. I know the names of the people who have applied early with us each year. Their names are burned in my head. And maybe they got a little special treatment from me. Maybe they got the good interview. But get those applications started as soon as possible, and get your applications with the academy started as soon as possible. If you guys have any final questions, please use the raise hand feature, and we can let you ask that question live. Yeah, Patrick?
Yeah, I saw a question in the Q&A about the CFA scores, Kyle, and that's probably the most common question I have. I'm going to share my screen, and what I have, at least from West Point, is I have a table that shows the maximum scores by event and gender and the average scores. I would tell the students that for West Point, if you're above the average scores in all of these, and you have to take videos of a couple of the events, you're going to pass the CFA. If you pass the CFA at West Point, focus your time that you have for the application somewhere else. Focus that time that you were training for the CFA on taking the SAT again, because it's weighted that much more heavily. Once you pass the CFA, you're going to be okay in that area. Don't try and get a maximum. Do it as best as you can, but once you pass the CFA, move on to a different part of the application because there's so much to do. But I'll share my screen here and let you guys see. Kyle, can you tell me if you guys see this?
You can see it.
Okay. So this, at least for West Point, is the information that I have available. This is the most common question I get in the field is, what do I need to do on the CFA? There is not a minimum score that is publicized. These are the averages. So if you can do above the averages, at least on this table for West Point, you'll be in good shape for the CFA portion of the application.
I would just like to add one other thing. On the other side of that spectrum, you can take this twice.
Yes.
So we recommend taking it as early as you can in the process, that if you do have a score that doesn't necessarily reach this average, or you do want to improve on, you give yourself that time to actually improve on your score and take it again.
So I think everybody's had a chance to at least see that, take a screenshot. So I'll stop sharing my screen, Kyle, and give it back to you.
Okay. We actually do have a live question from Troy Marenshaw. Troy, I'm going to unmute you now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, Troy, go ahead.
Hi. So our question is, we were wondering how competitive the nomination is for our district. Like, are you able to give us an idea, like in a given year, how many apply and then how many you put through the Naval Academy, for example?
I can't give specific numbers, but Central Florida is extremely strong. UCF being right there, lots of smart kids coming out of this area. the best thing to tell your son or your daughter who wants to apply is to apply early and to take all the advice that they received tonight to heart.
Okay. Apply early as in, sorry, we're starting super early. He's just a freshman, but he's really super motivated.
Kyle, I can answer it for West Point at least. I've been doing this for, I think, 3 years working with you. And every year we've had between 30 and 45 applicant files opened on the West Point side, maybe not on your side, but on my side. And Kyle already answered that his office, Stephanie Murphy's office, typically can and does nominate up to 10 students for West Point. So if we have on average 35 to 40 applicants that start a file and start an application with us, I can tell you what Kyle said is absolutely spot on. Central Florida, this district in particular, is more competitive from a standardized testing standpoint than the national averages are. That's why my answer where I typed it in said, okay, the national averages for West Point's SATs are between probably 1250 and 1350. I can tell you that I would advise students to shoot for 1350 to low 1400s to be in decent shape for the nomination locally, because it's just a very, very competitive district. That's the feedback that I have. I typically see about 30 to 40 applications. Of those, I'm gonna typically see 15 or so that have SATs well into the 1300s.
Well into the 1300s, yeah. Last year we had extremely strong. I think there's 10 this year with like 1380 or higher just in this district applying to West Point. So it's just a very competitive district. So that's why starting early on SAT and ACT prep in this particular district is really critical. And speaking to that, we do super score as well. So take the test as many times as you want. We're gonna take your highest scores. And then another point on that is, yes, this is a very competitive district, but you do also live in the state of Florida. So you have access to both Senator Scott and Senator Rubio. You should be applying to all three of us. If anything, it just gives you more practice interviewing with the boards, because they both have the same format as we do. That's a great point. And every year that I've done this working with you, it's not always the student with the highest SAT that gets the top nominations either. We really do look at all of the other attributes in the candidate's file. That's not just lip service. All the students have competitive scores, but every year there are students with the highest SATs that don't end up with one of the highest nomination spots. So I would highly encourage you, even if you have a score that is qualified and you're interested in going to any of the service academies, apply to them. Apply to several of them. I would encourage everybody to apply to all of the service academies if they have interest in any of them, because it might be just a weird year where West Point's not as competitive as the Naval Academy or Air Force Academy, and you should apply to all of them, and you should apply to all the nominations, like Kyle said. Absolutely.
That makes sense. Thank you. Do you have a question, Troy?
How many applied to Naval Academy?
For nominations?
For nominations.
Oh, we're not going to get into specific numbers. I'm sorry. Yeah. The process hasn't ended yet. Our application doesn't close until October 15th. So any number I give you, it wouldn't matter, in 2 weeks. So our next.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome. We have one more request to talk from Jacqueline Cook. Jacqueline?
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, so my question is, I'm wondering about the nomination process, not just for having like those letters of recommendation from the vice president, the two senators, our congresswoman. Can we get other recommendations from like teachers for core curriculums, activities? Can that be a part of our application process as well?
So are you asking about the nomination process?
No. Just like in the nomination process, can we have other recommendation letters?
So for our office, yes. For the application, it actually requires 2 letters of recommendation to be submitted along with your application. Did the academies want
to? So we love additional letters of recommendation. Certain letters of recommendation will be part of just the natural application, especially for teachers, coaches, guidance counselor. But any other letters of recommendation will be read. Anything you send us will be read in your application. It will be considered before the admissions board. So please, by all means.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did we have any other questions? Okay, well then we have reached the end of our event tonight. I want to thank everyone so much for making the time for joining us tonight. I think it was really a great event. I'd like to give our presenters one last chance to address those of us who have joined us tonight. If we want to start with Julia.
Absolutely, kind of like what's already been said, we encourage that you go for all avenues that you can to serve. With each of our academies, we have wonderful things to offer. So really look into what are those specific things, where the campus is, what you kind of want to learn about, and we're available resources. So like I said, I hope you guys got my contact information. If you didn't, if you're on academyadmissions.com, you can email me at region 2 and I will be able to answer your questions. I'm here to help you through the application process and help you kind of understand the academy experience. I was a class of 2021 grad, so I have really recent knowledge, and I'm available for you guys as you go through this process.
Patrick?
Yeah, just to echo those thoughts, I am the local person here. Like I live here, I work in College Park, I went to Edgewater, I live in the Boone District now, I've been in your shoes. I'm a little bit more removed from it than Julia as a 2005 graduate of West Point. I am already starting to reach out to some of you that I see on here and looking forward to talking to you soon. And my best advice, I'll just reiterate again, is to control the things that you can control throughout the process and get started early. I think that was a common theme from all of us today, is there's a lot that we can do to help you through the process if you have the tools in place. So starting it with athletics and extracurricular activities and standardized test prep earlier in the process, especially for those of you that are juniors and below. It's tough when a student comes to me that is otherwise fully qualified, but maybe has no areas that they're covering for extracurriculars or athletics, and they're already into their senior year. So getting started on those things early gives us the tools to help you down the road is my best advice. If you have reached out to me and I didn't see it, feel free to call me or text me. I'm going to post my cell phone number in the chat window. I'm running around like crazy, but I'm here to help you. I take it serious. And if there's any questions I can answer, feel free to call me during normal hours. I'd be happy to talk.
All right, guys, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Again, if you want to serve in any branch of the military, continue to apply yourself. It won't be easy, but nothing worthwhile in life is. So please, if it's difficult, reach out to your resources, but stick with it, persevere, even when it's difficult. And I promise you, what you were looking for, you will most likely attain if you just keep pushing yourself to do it. As I say, for anything in the applications or nominations process, the best day to have started was yesterday. The next best day is today. So please don't sleep on these things. Continue to push on them. Don't say, well, I have until this date to do something. No, start today if you can. And if you can't, work towards getting to the point where you can.
All right, hey, folks, thanks again for jumping in today. Like I mentioned previously, a lot of options for you and opportunities. So when you look at the service academies, don't forego the opportunity to apply to the Merchant Marine Academy. If you're looking to be an infantry officer in the Army, a pilot in the Marine Corps, a pilot in the Air Force, if you're looking to work in the Coast Guard, across any branch of service, Space Force, and cyber, certainly you have an opportunity to do that here. So at a minimum, if you're applying to a service academy, you should have us in the back pocket as well. We fill our class a little differently. For example, on the Department of Defense side, the academies typically have one spot per congressional district. We look at you from a state perspective. So we take all our qualified candidates within the state, and every year we have 10 allocations afforded to the state of Florida. We obviously offer a lot more, and we fill a lot more from Florida because we have a lot of great competitive candidates. But just because you're not the strongest candidate within your district doesn't mean you're going to get an academy. And I will bet you that we will have probably more than one candidate get into the Merchant Marine Academy from this district, because it is a great district. So, take that extra opportunity, get the nomination at Kings Point, because if, at the end of the day, if you're looking for another option and it's not, unfortunately, through Air Force or Navy or Army, we're still there. So take a look at us. I think it's going to be worth your time, worth your effort, and we'd be happy to have you here and give you a little bit more information about what we have to offer. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you so much. That does bring us to the end of tonight's event. In just a minute, you'll see my contact information on the screen. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions whatsoever. There I am. So that's kyle.thorpe@mail.house.gov. And then that 202 number is my direct line. Feel free to call me or send me emails with direct questions. I'll leave this up for just a little bit.